Her strike came with the force of the desert, and he knew it would be the end. How did post-war diplomacy, meant to be a bond, turn into a fight for survival? Hands that once shook, now aimed at each other. It all began in Sunagakure, on golden sands that danced under a relentless sun. Naruto, now a war hero, felt the weight of the diplomatic mission. He was the bridge between Konoha and Suna, a responsibility bigger than any Rasengan. Temari, on the other hand, watched his arrival with razor-sharp skepticism. She dealt with plenty of Kages and generals, and Naruto's fame didn't impress her. That loudmouth kid who changed the world? She wanted to see it for herself. The first meeting was procedural, and the tension was almost tangible in the dry office air. Naruto tried to break the ice with a joke, but her expression froze even further. A misunderstanding seemed imminent, even before the real conversation began. But the mission wasn't just about shaking hands and smiling for a photo op. There was a hidden detail buried in the scroll's fine print, something that Kazekage would only reveal later. A secret that demanded trust from both sides, or peace would remain fragile. Naruto realized Temari's distrust wasn't personal, but pure protection for her people. He had to prove his worth. The task was to investigate rumors of a new threat, a shadowy group aiming to destabilize the post-war agreements. Using the very desert sand as a weapon, they set out into the desert, under the scorching sun, and the conversation flowed unexpectedly. Temari saw in Naruto not just a loudmouth ninja, but a leader with a huge heart, who genuinely cared for everyone. He, in turn, noticed her strategic intelligence, the way she read the wind and the dunes. Mutual admiration grew rapidly, but with each dune they conquered, a strange sensation arose in the air. The sand felt denser, the winds more treacherous. They knew they weren't alone. There was something, or someone, watching their every move. Suddenly, a roar echoed from the depths of the sand. A gigantic creature, made of chakra and darkness, emerged before them. Temari and Naruto exchanged glances, a flash of mutual understanding in their eyes. This wasn't a common monster, but a war weapon no one expected, and the real enemy was much closer than they imagined. The ground shook, and the creature of dark sand advanced with visible hunger. That shapeless mass, with pulsing chakra eyes, exuded a biting chill, even under the sun. Naruto knew it wasn't time to think, but to act, and Temari already held her fan with relentless resolve. Hot sand lashed Naruto's face, but his gaze was fixed on Temari's movements. She was the strategist here, the voice of the desert. He saw her hand point to a high dune, a clear signal to gain a positional advantage against the beast, unleashing blasts of dense sand that distorted the surrounding air. Naruto used a rapid shushin, dodging by a hair's breadth, and Temari opened her three-moon fan, creating a barrier of slicing wind. Her defense was an art, precise and potent. Temari unleashed such a powerful gust of wind that the creature staggered, its dark sand particles momentarily dispersing. She was mapping its weaknesses, and Naruto felt it in the air. He prepared a Rasengan, waiting for the right moment for the decisive blow. But the creature wasn't stupid, and the sand around it compacted, forming almost impenetrable shields. It returned the attack with a reinforced sand tentacle, fast as lightning, aiming for Temari's exposed flank. The danger was real, and the distance between them was closing. Naruto shouted her name, and he was there, a yellow blur, intercepting the blow with his body. The impact was brutal, and he felt the massive force of the black sand crash into him. But the Rasengan in his hand shone brighter. They had no time for fear. Now, Naruto! Her voice came fast, and Temari raised her fan, creating a gigantic tornado that swept the desert sand. The creature was forced to expose itself, and Naruto didn't lose a second. He thrust the Rasengan, and the blue sphere exploded into the beast's core. The creature disintegrated into millions of dark sand grains, leaving behind a smoldering hole in the ground. The scent of ozone and burnt chakra hung in the air. They gasped, exhausted but victorious. But the victory was fragile, because something wasn't right. At the center of the impact, a small metallic medallion glowed, half buried in the sand. It bore a strange symbol, one Naruto had never seen. It didn't seem to be from Suna, nor Konoha. That object was the clue, and Temari picked it up, her expression serious. "This isn't a common experiment, Naruto," she said, her voice low but laced with growing apprehension. The medallion was cold, and the dark energy emanating from it was subtle, yet present. Someone was orchestrating this. Someone with frightening power and access to forbidden secrets. The symbol on the medallion looked like a spider web, intertwined with roots, and Temari felt a shiver down her spine. She knew that insignia from ancient legends, told in whispers. The threat came from within, from a shadowy cult, sworn to have been extinct centuries ago. The insignia on the medallion sent a cold shiver down her spine. Temari gripped the object, and the legend of the shadowy cult echoed in her mind. This wasn't just an attack, it was a message, a direct challenge to the nations striving for peace. How could they be back after all this time? Naruto felt the weight of those words. A cult sworn extinct, reborn from the desert? He looked at Temari, at the seriousness on her face, and a silent admiration grew in his chest. She wasn't just the strong ninja he knew. She was a woman with ancestral knowledge, a guardian of secrets. Temari, in turn, felt his gaze. A strange, almost unfamiliar warmth rose to her face, contrasting with the arid desert air. The way he intercepted the blow, the way he protected her, that was something she hadn't expected, something that sent a pang through her heart. He noticed the glint in her eyes. That gaze, not of fear, but of absolute concentration, made Naruto wonder what else lay behind that implacable demeanor. He knew the danger was far from over, and the cult's next attack would be much worse. They needed to get back to Suna, and fast. With each step across the sand, the silence between them was no longer awkward, but charged with a new intensity. The wind carried whispers, and the sun seemed more distant. Naruto broke the silence, asking about the details of the cult's legends. Temari, surprised, spoke of dark rituals and the power to manipulate the very soul of the sand. Her voice was calm, but the story was chilling. Naruto watched the way her blonde hair danced with the wind, the way her green eyes narrowed in concentration. Her image went beyond just a kunoichi, and a new, unsettling feeling began to grow within him, a desire to protect her. Temari felt his presence beside her, strong and protective, and that strange warmth intensified. It was a sensation she couldn't decipher, something that went against her reserved nature. The medallion in her hand seemed to vibrate, a premonition that they were either on the right path or about to fall into a worse trap. Suddenly, a slender, swift shadow crossed the horizon, gliding between the dunes. It wasn't a desert animal, but something that moved with furtive intelligence. It was a messenger, coming directly from Suna, carrying news that froze both their blood. The messenger, exhausted, fell to his knees in the sand, gasping, "Lady Temari, Lord Naruto, the Kazekage, he's been attacked, and the village is under a siege of black sand." Kazekage attacked. The world stopped, and Naruto's blood ran cold. The desert air grew heavy, charged with a very real terror. Temari didn't hesitate, and her green eyes blazed with cold fury. It wasn't about diplomacy anymore. It was about her village, her family, her brother. They acted at the same instant, a synchronization that seemed impossible for two such different ninjas. Naruto activated Sage Mode of the Six Paths, and Temari released chakra to her feet, turning her run into a blur. With each leap, each dune conquered, the smell of burnt sand grew stronger, and Suna's familiar landscape appeared distorted. A dome of dense black sand swallowed the village, a deadly embrace, suffocating the life within. The scene was chaotic, and Suna ninjas fought desperately against shadowy creatures emerging from the sand, smaller replicas of the monster they had just defeated. Despair hung in the air like a fog. Temari and Naruto struck the dome with combined fury, and the blow was so powerful that the structure shattered into millions of grains. They were a whirlwind of destruction and salvation, a promise that the danger here would end. Naruto surged to the front lines, Rasengan after Rasengan, clearing the path of shadowy creatures. Temari from above coordinated the defense, her fan unleashing gusts of wind that swept the enemy away like dry leaves, saving lives with every strike. They fought with everything they had, and time seemed to bend under the intensity of the combat. The black sand retreated, and order began to be restored. It was a victory, but the exhaustion was visible, and the weight of the battle still rested on their shoulders. Hours later, under a starry night that seemed a cloak of peace, they stood on the Kazekage's building rooftop. Gaara's injury was severe but stable. Naruto looked at Temari, and she saw the concern in his eyes. The silence was deep, but not awkward. Temari felt the warmth of his body beside her, an unexpected comfort that pierced her armor. She didn't need to hide her fatigue, and he didn't judge her. It's tough, isn't it, being responsible for so much? Naruto's voice came in a whisper, and Temari felt a warmth in her chest. He understood her, understood the burden, the loneliness that came with power. It was a comfort she didn't know she needed. Naruto turned to her, and the starlight reflected in his blue eyes, conveying a raw sincerity. But together, Temari, we're stronger. He didn't know those words already held the power to change an entire universe for her. Konoha's council was in a rage, and their union was the reason. That silent promise made under the stars turned into a declaration of war against everything they knew. How could such a pure bond generate so much destruction, attracting the resentment of people so close? The news leaked fast, swifter than any ninja messenger. The warmth between Temari and Naruto on the rooftop was seen, and his words echoed through the halls like a bomb, detonating the fragile post-war peace and shaking the very foundations of the alliances. In Sunagakure, Kankuro was the first to blow up, with a rage that made the sand tremble. A Konoha ninja, the 7th Hokage, with Temari? This is an insult to our tradition and the memory of our ancestors. His fury was palpable, but Gaara's gaze, though silent, carried an even greater weight, a somber warning. In Konoha, the Elder Council roared, demanding an explanation for such audacity. An alliance born of love was unthinkable, subverting years of calculated diplomacy and complex agreements, all for a mere feeling. Tsunade, even out of power, felt the tension mount, and Kakashi tried to mediate, but the stubbornness was deep and blind. The weight of traditions was overwhelming, threatening to crush what had barely begun to bloom. Marriages between Kages or powerful clan members had been political arrangements for centuries, not the fruits of youthful sentiment. This exception threatened to destabilize the foundations of both countries, creating an unprecedented diplomatic crisis, a risk to everyone. Naruto felt the sting of rejection, the fury of the villages against him, but his determination was unwavering, as it always had been. He couldn't give up on Temari, not after everything they'd been through together, not after the feeling that exploded within him with a new force. He would face the entire world, if necessary, for her and for this new vision of peace. Temari in turn was divided, pulled in opposite directions by equally powerful forces. The passion she felt for Naruto was new, intense, and overwhelming, but her loyalty to her brother, her village, and her duty was a bond she couldn't break, an ancient oath. The pressure was suffocating, a dilemma that tore at her soul. But the true threat didn't just come from elders and siblings. Someone, behind the scenes, was using this turbulence to sow even more discord. A silent political venom designed to shatter not only the romance, but the alliance of the villages themselves. A new, even more cunning enemy was lurking, and the truth about this attack would soon be revealed. An emergency meeting was called, a clear and brutal ultimatum. Choose, passion or duty, love or peace between the villages. Gaara, with a gaze colder than the desert sands, presented the demands, and Kankuro reinforced the warning, showing the implacable seriousness of the situation. Naruto and Temari exchanged glances, the weight of the world and the entire ninja future on their shoulders. The decision hung in the air like a sharp sword, and their future, the peace they had fought so hard to build, depended on a choice that seemed impossible, a painful crossroads fraught with sacrifice. The air grew heavy with the choice, and Naruto felt cold sweat trickle down his back. But he looked at Temari, saw the silent strength in her green eyes, and the answer came not as a division, but as an unbreakable bond that arose in the silence. We don't choose between love and peace, Naruto's voice resonated, firm and filled with an unbreakable conviction. We choose both, because our bond doesn't destroy, it builds a new kind of peace. The Konoha and Suna councils, expecting surrender, were in shock. Kankuro stood, his puppet rattling with rage, but Gaara, for the first time, had a glimmer of curiosity in his eyes, a spark of hope. Temari, beside Naruto, felt the weight of the decision, but also an overwhelming freedom. It was her voice, her power, her right to love and fight. She raised her chin, a queen of the desert, defying history itself. Not a weakness, Temari declared, and the wind seemed to echo her words through the hall. And whoever tries to separate us will feel the strength of two villages, united against a threat they still don't understand. A shadow seemed to dance on the council walls. Their unspoken promise resonated. The true threat still waited, lurking in the shadows, ready to use that discord. They had to prove that love could be the greatest weapon, the only one capable of forging peace. Then an ancient sealed scroll, believed lost, appeared in the center of the hall, bearing the spiderweb and roots symbol, the same insignia from the medallion. It was a brutal revelation. The enemy was acting from within. The scroll revealed a sinister conspiracy, a shadowy cult infiltrating both villages, fueling the misunderstanding. The discord over Naruto and Temari was a smokescreen, and the real blow was against the very foundation of the alliance itself. Naruto and Temari realized the manipulation, how they had been used to divide. They had to act, prove the truth, and if their love had been the ignition, now it would be the force that would unite what was about to shatter. But the scroll's revelation was just the beginning, and the council door exploded with devastating force. Several ninjas with glazed eyes and corrupted chakra stormed the hall, ready to silence the truth and eliminate the new hope that had just been born. It was a trap, a direct attack on the heart of the villages, and Naruto and Temari stood side by side, ready for the fight. The bond between them was now the only barrier between peace and the spreading chaos. The door exploded, and the corrupted ninjas surged forward, with red, chaos-hungry eyes. Naruto and Temari stood side by side, an imposing barrier against the darkness trying to swallow the council. The air was thick with dust and the scent of ozone. Naruto activated Sage Mode, and Temari raised her fan, a deadly dance of wind and chakra that swept enemies away like dry leaves. Their coordination was perfect. Gaara, with his icy gaze, controlled defensive sand, protecting the confused elders. Kankuro unleashed his puppets, a mechanical army that intercepted every enemy blow, while the true puppet master infiltrated the shadows to find the source of the corruption. Naruto, with a gigantic Rasen Shuriken, ripped a gap in the enemy ranks, and Temari finished with a wind slice, so sharp it disabled the corrupted ninjas, making them fall exhausted but alive. They didn't want to kill, but to free. Kankuro, emerging from the shadows, revealed the true mastermind, a former Suna elder, once respected, now driven mad by the cult's power. He manipulated fears, traditions, and used the discord of their love as a smokescreen for his own ambition. The traitor, with a twisted smile, revealed his plan to use the chaos to install a new order. He tried to fire a last chakra blast, But Gaara, with his relentless sand, formed a prison that choked the attempt, ending the threat for good. The smoke cleared, and silence fell upon the council. But now it was a silence of relief and shame. The elders saw the truth, the manipulation, and the strength that Naruto and Temari's bond brought to save everyone, including those who had condemned them. Naruto's friends, Shikamaru and Kakashi, arrived from Konoha. They saw the struggle, the unity, and the new respect in Gaara and Kankuro's eyes. The bridge between the villages was no longer just diplomacy. It was a bond of trust, forged in battle. Temari and Naruto's love became the beacon for a future where peace was not just an agreement, but a real, felt bond between people. They proved that the power of love could unmask darkness and unite what was destined to break. Years passed, and Konoha and Suna flourished in an alliance never before seen. Their marriage, a celebration for all nations, symbolized a new era, the overcoming of barriers and the persistence of hearts that dared to dream of peace. Their legacy echoed. It wasn't about following rules, but about forging a path where love and duty could coexist, building a stronger and more united world, where understanding conquered hatred and respect was the most valuable currency. If you liked this story and want me to bring more, hit that like button so I know. We have new videos every day on the channel, so you know the drill. Subscribe so you don't miss anything coming up. Thanks for following this story. I'll see you around.